Yo, yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue 113 of Mini Truckin Magazine. It's a damn good one. Cory Brown's Nissan, which was built by Platnium Koncepts, or they were involved. This truck, if you follow us on social media, we posted it not too long ago. It was featured in Street Trucks September 2000 issue as Higher Ground. Now, his other regular cab, or his other truck, which was a regular cab, it was featured in the premiere issue of Street Trucks, aka issue 1. This is the 7th cover to have KMC Wheels. Wes Allison's 26th credited cover. And we'll talk a little bit more about some things on the cover that tie into this issue. Stick with us to the end. It helps our channel out. But what you're going to see is an awesome truck. One of my favorite Nissans. It's easy to say that because there's so many awesome trucks, but that Tangelo color was just really popping in that era. I think it's still an awesome color. They also hint at some mobile audio special. So a box that's built, and the beautiful model, which is one of the, I'd probably say one of the finest on the cover, Michelle, Latiolais. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. But super, super hot. But this is May 2000. Let's jump in here. Again, if you can, watch these all the way through. It helps our channel. There's a lot in this issue to talk about. What we'll do is we'll look here at the table of contents. Cory Brown's killer Nissan King Cab. Not extended cab, King Cab. And Wes Allison, you can see there, gets the credit. Vanthrax. Some other awesome features, Lakefront Tour, first annual Severed SoCal. God, 20 plus years ago. Time flies, y'all. Now, speak up, we're listening. So Lance writes in a little bit here. I think he talks about, too, that with Finnegan being on board, that Finnegan had brought in some new ideas and didn't really kind of mince his words or ideas. He was, bringing some things to the forefront, which was good. Now, we're still not all color, although you will see a little bit more color in this issue. Like, for instance, here, you've got color on this page, but black and white. So, even up to this point, 10 plus years, almost going on, 12, 13 years, they're still not all color, which is kind of crazy, but it's just the way it is. Those are just the facts. Again, with Finnegan being on board, he was bringing some good stuff. We saw lots of tech articles and ideas, to Lance's point there. Exploring the possibilities. So I mentioned this before. There was one cover with a Ford Explorer. Tip of the cap to Mike Hill. He just won Street Trucks 2022 Cover Truck of the Year. And he has a Ford Explorer that was on the cover. And I think there's only been one Ford Explorer, to my knowledge, going from memory, on the cover of Street Trucks. So not often, it's kind of a platform, I think is the way someone commented it and said, it's a platform that really not a lot of people, build these things, but certainly pretty cool. This is a 4-door, different than Mike Hill's, which is a 2-door. So kind of still cool to see. Something else I want to say from memory, you guys could chime in here. This lowdown, I'm trying to remember when I flipped through this one briefly yesterday. It seems like this was new, and that just had popped in my head. The reason being is you're going to see something that ties into the cover truck, how they do an interview style with the owner. And I think the significance of that is, we got to a certain point where these come into play versus like a long write-up. And I like the write-ups, but at the same time, this really was condensing the information for lowering wheels, paint, body, interior, so on and so forth. I did a lot of this, too, when I was helping Mike Alexander at Slammed Mag. We would condense the information down for the online features, and it was kind of cool. But we would also have the write-up, the story that goes along with it. Subsonic, so here is a tech article on a real clean box that's built. As we've established and as we all know, car audio really goes hand in hand with mini trucking. with the mini truck culture. Here is a Lakefront Fantasy. So we went to the show one time. I think it was once, and we went when it was kind of bad weather. If I remember correctly, it was kind of real rainy, but this show was one that has around a long time. I'm guessing it's still not around, or I'm guessing it's no longer around. Always top quality. Jeremy's, Integra? The Mazda that we continue to see a lot of in the magazine, and then the Isuzu. Always a big fan of those wheels. Pretty cool. You can see a lot of trucks, you know, in the show coverage. There's the Mazda again in the upper left with a cool bridge setup. I want to say that was extensive setup. They did a lot of those bars like that back in the day. Here is Max for Maxed Out paint. That is, I think I mentioned it recently, maybe the last issue. Seeing that Caprice wagon at Texas Heatwave 2001. That was just one of the creations. Dude is super talented, and it's always cool to see. This is the S10 I talked about not too long ago, where I believe it's the one that ended up as a gray chassis that I saw at Showfest, and that really pushed me to want to kind of redo my truck with a full frame. I don't know that that thing ever got back together, but that thing was super sick. It had like 2 or 3 small air tanks in the bed. Really well done truck. If anybody knows anything about it, comment below. You can see here this Toyota has resurfaced. Space cab, Isuzu. And then they had a huge indoor section at Lakefront Tour. And if you recall, when I went through the features that were in Street Trucks, so Ty Zito's Mazda and Radar Space Cab, it was shot, I'm pretty sure, at the Lakefront Tour show because of, you know, the sign that we can see there. They were in Lake Charles. That would have been a couple years before this, a year or two. Here's the cover truck that we recently saw, the Mazda. Definitely appreciate you guys rocking with us. I can't believe that we're well past 100 now. We're still not halfway done. You know, you got to get up to about 135 to get halfway through, which is kind of crazy. But certainly get a lot of good feedback. People are appreciative of this. So Cory Brown, he built this awesome Nissan Hardbody. And something that will tie back to the cover, you can see where it says first ever model interview. And of course the beautiful Michelle, right? This was probably an idea that, you know, Finnegan maybe came up with, or, you know, he said, hey, Lance, what, you know, are all these people reading these write-ups and whatever? And this kind of kicked off a couple of cool things that we'll see later down the road. But how do you guys feel? Like, did you like the interview style? Right? You think about what we do on the podcast now. We interview people. Or did you like the actual story, the write-up itself? You know, this is basically the write-up that you get. This month's cover feature represents a milestone for mini trucking. You're looking at a new way of doing things. Since this sport is not just about trucks, but rather the people behind it, we decided to give the cover truck owners in every issue a chance to speak their minds. So you can see a little bit of insight behind that. He says, I did the body drop and suspension at my house and at Platinum Custom Paint and Body. So, you know, Cory in conjunction with Platnium Koncepts. Now, something else you can see that I pointed out in the past is he did have the banner. So Platnium Koncepts there with a number. And they would, you can see there, it's all black. They would, you know, black that stuff out, Photoshop and whatnot, just because, I mean, it would look better. I don't think it was so much that you weren't allowed to advertise. I mean, certainly because they're advertising there. But really an awesome truck. Especially in that era. The other thing I love about this thing is the bed. When they raise the floor, it's like basically has that stock appearance with all the ribs. You see super clean hydraulic setup. The rear shaved with the taillight shaved and the roll pan. And then the interior just really tied in nicely. Of course, some of these guys would always run juice on their stuff, and certainly it's clean. Close up here of the bed setup with the pumps and the accumulators. Another photo with the model. Stereo setup, I always liked it. Being a king cab, easily put the subs and amps right there. And let's not forget, clean engine bay. Clean for the day, clean for today, even today, by today's standards. But you can see here, MT Finnegan does the feature, or the interview. And then boom, what they do here, so the other reason this ties into the cover is they really acknowledge for the first time the model. And what I mean by acknowledge, it's not that they've never put their names in there, but if you look back at a lot of issues, oftentimes their name isn't even mentioned. Not the majority of them, but I think even the last couple that we may have went through, they don't even mention the person's name, which was like an oversight maybe. They would sometimes put it in the table of contents, sometimes they wouldn't. But it was cool that they're acknowledging the model because, they're getting paid, right? More than likely, unless it's like a friend, kind of doing it as a favor. But what I also liked is what they would do is, and Street Trucks did a great job of this. They would, basically put photography, which they always did for the most part, Wes, the model, so they list their name, and then the interview was done by. So Street Trucks would be kind of similar. They would always put the owner's name, the make and model, and then the club. But certainly was cool that Cory's truck was featured on a cover. Even though it was featured, give or take, less than a year prior in Street Trucks, which, you know how that goes. Typically, if one publication features your truck, the other just says, no, we're not going to do it. But I don't always agree with that because, there's trucks like that one, for instance. It's not like people were going to go, oh, I'm not going to buy that $5 cover or whatever it was at the time because I already saw that feature. People wanted it. So, I think they made the right choice, Lance and Mike, by running that. Here's Vanthrax. We saw this thing at Showfest. Many of you have probably seen it over the years. And this was a really, really cool van. Guessing it's still around. Lance shoots it, does the write-up. And if I remember correctly, yep, Charles Armstrong did the paint on this thing. He was down with lower level, which you'll see there on the front windshield banner. That club was kind of a... talked to a couple people that were in lower level, and those guys kind of ended up going on to other clubs, but certainly really, really badass club. All right, so this car is the car that reminds me, this is maxed out paint as well, and this is the car that kind of reminds me of Ghetto Bob's S10 in terms of the colors. I'm sure others probably feel the same, and that's no slight against this thing because it's super awesome. Love the paint on it. But that's the vibe that I get. And I'm trying to remember if Maxed Out probably did Ghetto Bob's truck. Off the top of my head, I don't 100% recall. But you can see here Maxwell of Maxed Out Paintworks, W-O-R-X. I think I've seen it spelled W-U-R-X and W-E-R-X. I think. Could just be a typo over the course of time, but this is the same guy that did the Caprice I talked about just a little bit ago. Really, really talented. All right, Construction Zone. This guy here, I forgot about. I don't forget about Bobby, but I sometimes forget his name. We would always talk to Bobby back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember him. Some of you may. But Bobby was a real cool dude. I remember him from the Street Source days. This truck was, man, so nice. Was always a big fan of those wheels. The Paradox, of course, on the first Street Trucks cover truck. And just a really, 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 really nice truck. Planted flat on the ground. And I think Bobby just got out of the scene. We would talk to him when we'd see him at shows. I think he would shoot for Street Source and whatnot. And, you know, just one of those guys that decided he wanted to do something different. This was an NC truck, so pretty cool to see. Imagine if your truck was in a wheel ad, especially a 2-page ad. Inky wheels. Here's a Razor's Edge Ford Ranger. A guy named Jason owned this one from NC. Rangers don't get enough love, but certainly we're starting to see some featured here. Not that they weren't featured, but seems like S10's got more love. But Rangers are still off the hook. Silver Star Customs, you'll remember that name. I've mentioned it a couple times. They ultimately they do a giveaway on a Blazer that they gave away at Showfest. I think they raffled it off. I want to say that we stayed that day for awards, which we didn't always do back in the day. Kind of getting through this one a little bit quicker. I know some of these can tend to go a little bit longer. So, Severed SoCal. There is a Blazer that will grace the cover. Another cover truck. Really awesome S10. The green Yoda. Check out the camera on that thing. Super clean graphics there. Perfect from that era. And Devious Customs. Nissan. And then here you go. There's the Nissan we recently saw. MIC built. Almost like a Pathfinder, crew cab mini, like a Pathfinder-ish. Unibody topless is what I get out of that. Pretty awesome. And then actually, if we zoom in here, you can see the MIC, one of the MIC dualies. Good stuff. And S10. Toyota. Good times. Riding around, so you see some color here because this was a color page. You see black and white since this was a black and white page. What's up? Same photo in the upper left corner. Goodbye, Ghetto Home. So he talks about getting rid of the motorhome. Ludlow and Needles. He talks about Brett in here. Drag my buddy Brett Oaks by Drop Chevy Dually along. I remember that was part of a trade or something like that at some point. Brett's old Dually, the one that's in Severed, Utah, the orange one, that thing is insane. Here was pretty cool. You see a lot of Truck Club logos down to earth. RA, Explicit Concepts, Lowered Atmosphere, and then check out the old camps. You got the van in the back. You got white, a lot of white shirts, a couple gray shirts. Different era. And then the MIC didn't really reinforce, although they were really blazing a trail on the cover or the back cover of Street Trucks when we had Rob Maggi on, who owned MIC. You know, you talk about the advertising aspect. They were spending some money for sure. And, you know, that's what you got to do. You know, you got to spend the money to get the phone ringing and sell the parts. So there you have it, issue 113, Cory Brown's amazing truck. Anybody know if it's still around? The awesome model, Michelle, on the cover, first ever interview. And again, 7th cover with KMC Wheels. It's a damn good one. Consider subscribing, leave a comment. Stay on the rise, y'all. We at ya. Peace.